Gaza protesters dim the glitz and glamour of Biden's Obama-Clinton fundraiser in New York City. This from the USA Today. On one hand, Joe Biden's glitzy New York fundraiser couldn't have gone better for the president's reelection campaign. The high-dollar event Thursday at Radio City Music Hall raked in a whopping $26 million. Former presidents Barack Obama and Bill Clinton presented a united Democratic front and made cases not just for defeating Donald Trump, but continuing Biden's agenda. Star power from the likes of Stephen Colbert and Lizzo gave the fundraiser the pizzazz of a Hollywood gala. Yet a large group of protesters demonstrating against the Gaza war outside the venue created a troubling split screen for Biden, one that served as a reminder of the pressure that his re-election bid faces from the left and young voters. So here is outside the venue. Now, as Russell said offline earlier, we covered this a little bit on our Patreon show on Friday morning. It was a miserable, cold, wet night in New York
really
last Thursday.
I was wondering how that was going to affect the protest, but looks like it didn't affect it much. They had a big crowd there from what we can see.
Yep. So here's a little bit of that.
These people wait, what are they, all Welsh? They don't even have umbrellas.
Yeah. Genocide Joe has got to go. A leading New York pro-Palestinian group within our lifetime was among those organizing protesters billed as the Flood Manhattan for Gaza rally. The group issued a call to supporters ahead of the fundraiser, writing on X, Genocide Joe has got to go. And as you can see from that video we just showed, they brought people out there who were on message, protesting Genocide Joe, Barack Obama, and Bill Clinton outside their Democratic fundraiser at Radio City Music Hall. So this was the call to action tweet. It obviously worked very well. We just showed you the video of outside the room. However, once the show got underway, Biden, Obama, and Clinton were each interrupted multiple times by Gaza protesters inside the hall, laying bare the unrest within the Democratic Party that hangs over the election. Blood on your hands, some yelled, prompting Obama at one point to snap back. What did he snap back, Russell?
You can't just talk and not listen. That's what the other side does.
That's what the other side does. That's what the other side, that horrible other side. First of all, yes, they can talk and not listen. You know why they can talk and not listen? Because there's been a lot of talk lately out of Washington about how Israel has to reverse policy and Benjamin Netanyahu's got to come to Washington and have a come to Jesus moment. Yes, that's what Joe Biden actually said. He wants the leader of the Jewish state to come here and hear a lecture from the Irish Catholic president and have a come to Jesus moment. That never happened. Your rhetoric has not matched your actions, as we're going to learn in just a moment when we find out that they've been actually quietly sending arms to Israel this entire time. And so why do they have to listen to you? Why would they listen to you? What reason does anybody have to listen to you and not simply scream at you? You have proven time and again throughout this conflict and many others, but especially and most urgently this conflict, that your words are worth dog shit. They mean nothing. So don't be surprised nobody wants to listen to you. They only want to yell at you. You had your chance to speak. You've been lying about this the entire time. You've been gaslighting. You have been deflecting, and nothing has happened. It's only gotten worse.
Yeah, this is typical Obama. You know, whenever he gets confronted, whenever anyone pushes back, he falls back on the lib line. Civility. You're being uncivil. Oh, Sir, your behavior is shocking. This is not how we resolve matters at court.
Right.
He always falls back on that bullshit. Meanwhile, it's just a smokescreen for the fact that they're not going to listen to what you tell them. Obama, don't boo, vote.
Right, yeah, don't boo, vote. Yeah, exactly.
Same exact election. I can't remember the candidate. He was running in a Democratic primary, and he taped the guy from the DNC basically like a mobster, telling him, yeah, listen, people don't want you running, and maybe it'd be good for you if you drop out.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You got this whole tape of him saying that. And that was the same exact election. And this is the same exact Barack Obama who did everything possible to put his thumb on the scale against Bernie Sanders in both elections, 2016 and in 2020. He does Monday Night Massacre, engineered for everyone to drop out. So people are supposed to take you seriously as somebody who believes in the democratic process. This is somebody who knows they have loaded dice, who wants to lecture you about playing a fair game.
Of course. That's well put. Later in the article.
The reason.
Go ahead.
The reason why I originally selected Joe Biden to be my vice president is because he has the moral conviction, clarity. He's also willing to acknowledge that the world is complicated. That he's willing to listen to all sides in this debate and every other debate and try to see if we can find common ground. That's the kind of president I want.
Now, anybody who believes that is willfully stupid, because everybody knows that the only reason Barack Obama chose Joe Biden in 2008 to be his running mate is because he was afraid that too many Rust Belt voters would be too hesitant to vote for a black man with a Muslim-sounding name. And so he needed to put a Scranton, avuncular, old white man who they were familiar enough with on the ticket. That's why he put Biden on the ticket. He put Biden on the ticket because Biden is a racist. That's really why he put him on the ticket.
Yeah. Exactly. It was because he had a history of working with segregationists, of working against school busing, of working for mass incarceration. That was a big signal to white voters. Don't worry, there's going to be the master from the big house is going to be in the White House.
Yeah,
he'll be there to keep an eye on the black president.
Yeah, that was his way of saying nothing will fundamentally change. Right? Don't worry too much. Don't worry too much. But unfortunately, there's no video. Whoever did that intervention on Obama, where he talked back, messed up, or perhaps the people who were videoing were already escorted out, because there is video of a lot of protest activity inside Radio City Music Hall. So here is one posted originally by the People's Forum.
There was an insurrection.
Shame on you, Joe Biden! Shame on you!
If you notice right in front of her, it's a little hard to see, but there are some empty seats there in the orchestra level. Some empty seats. A lot of people, turns out, maybe wanted to make a donation, but thought, do I really need to come and see these assholes talk for 3 hours?
Well, you know, it might have been the weather, too.
Could have been the weather. The weather was a factor, for sure.
Shame on you, Joe Biden! Shame on you! Shame on you! You are funding genocide in Palestine and no amount of full concern that you will change the billions that you are doing! There's blood on your hands! Talk about the innocent of the Palestinians.
You know, this guy is up in the third mezzanine. As longtime and devoted listeners know, my first job when I moved to New York City, because I had some tour guide experience, I was actually a tour guide at Radio City Music Hall for almost 2 full years. And so I'm quite familiar with the theater. This is the third mezzanine. So this is very far away from where they are speaking. And as you notice, the event is able to proceed as if this guy's not yelling. That's how far away he is. Yeah. Because it's such a huge room.
That's what I'm saying. For this guy, and they had to pay for this, man, if you weren't going to smuggle in like voice amplification, why bother? Yeah. You know, you annoyed some libs.
You did.
Maybe a few of them, gummed your ankles on the way out.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
That's about it.
Palestinians are dying right now because of your actions. Palestinians
yeah, see, they keep talking.
Shame!
Because of what you're doing.
Yeah, look at him rousting this kid.
Shame. Stop brutalizing him. Stop brutalizing him.
Okay, now on the way out after the event got done, and good on these protesters for not only showing up before the event and chanting outside as people were filing in, but good on them for waiting outside all night in that pretty nasty weather, and letting the people who went to the events, letting those in the audience on their way out know what they thought of them for being there. So here's some great video, too. This is afterwards. These idiots waving around Biden, Harris signs. in the middle of the street. Look at these fucking idiots. Now, if you notice, I really want to make a point.
When I do Sidney Applebaum, this is who I'm doing.
Yeah, this is it.
Yeah,
Right.
you're surrounded by these morons, especially in Manhattan. If you live in Manhattan, I mean that's the Borg homeworld for shitlips.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. But what's really great about this, and I'll show you, I'll let this video play here. This is how you do it. You yell at them, you let them know what you think, but if you notice, no one touches anybody. That's very important. Do not touch anyone because they can get you in trouble for that. And don't block their path. You know, notice they're not blocking their path. They're letting them cross the street.
I mean,
they're
you
letting
can
them go
touch
where
them
they have
for a
to go.
hate fuck, but it has to be consensual.
Yeah, right.
And you should probably take it to a room.
But if you notice, they don't get in their way. They don't touch them. They let them go where they have to go, but they let them know what they think of their being at that event every step they take. And so that's a very well-organized action, as you can see. That call to action went out. Everybody came. They were on the same page. You had some people get in there, which took some organizing in and of itself because those were not cheap seats. So they raised some money to get some people in there, and they had people outside.
What was the minimum? Because you had to pay $25 even to get in the lottery to buy the tickets.
To get in the lottery to buy the tickets was $25, and I think that got you access to like some virtual pre-show or whatever the hell it was. But yeah, to get inside, I think the cheapest seats were like $250. So, you know, that was not a cheap seat in there. And so you had money raised to get people in the door. You had a lot of coordination outside the venue. And notice this was reported on by ABC News. That video was pulled off of X. That's been out there quite a bit. They did it exactly the way you have to do it. Forceful, nonviolent, no touching anybody, no blocking anybody's way, but just really getting the message out to the point where USA Today picked that up, CNN picked that up. I mean, these protest actions made a huge dent in the PR coming out of what is, at the end of the day, yes, a historic haul. But they took a lot of good press away from them by doing this. And so it was fantastically well done.
Yeah, my experience at these events is these protesters, they're very good in spite of what you might hear from corporate media. They're very organized, they're very nonviolent, they're very conscious of how they are going to come off. That was my same experience at Bernie events. You would get this, the Bernie bros. Everyone was so conscious that the media was against them that people tended to be self-censoring to make sure they didn't give the media that angle or plausible reason to cover it that way.
Oh, yeah. And in this case, they are especially conscious. I mean, especially conscious of that.
And that's why a lot of times when you look at coverage of the other side, they're the ones who are really fucking unhinged. They're the ones who do shit where you're like, how did they not get arrested? Why didn't the police do anything? Because they know they can behave that way with impunity. When you're the dissident, you have to be very careful about how you handle yourself at these events.
It takes a lot of discipline.
Most people are conscious of that.
It takes a lot of discipline. It takes precision and execution, and these are traits that the left is not known for, generally speaking. That was what impressed me about Shama Sawant's team from day one, is how organized they were and how precise they were and how knowledgeable they were, not only of their issues, but of how to best fight for them and how to fend off attacks from the media and from the Democrats and from the big business interests in Seattle that obviously wanted her gone. So, you know, there are great leaders in these movements, and these protests really show that. I mean, that was extremely well done. That could have descended into a total shit show pretty easily. One guy slips up and dusts it up with one of the rich fucks, and they're getting sued. Now it's all over. I mean, because you know the ADL's all over that. Morning Joe's all over that the next day. Notice they couldn't say shit. Nobody could say shit about them except that they ruined the party, which is their right to. They paid to fucking get in.
Yep. Exactly. I mean, that is definitely, now it's much more visible and much more, these organizations have figured out how to get this kind of thing together.
I just got a text from Jose. reminding me that Diane Sayre was one of the interveners. Yes, she was. Diane Sayre, Jose's partner there, was one of those who was dragged out of the music hall. She was actually on the ground floor in the orchestra level, it looked like. I pulled that video. I don't know what happened to it. I thought I had that in the queue here, but I don't see it anymore.
I saw it when you were in the pre-show.
Yeah, it was in the pre-show. I don't know what happened here. Let me see if I could show Diane to give you guys a sense of this. Yeah, here she is. So here's Diane Sayre getting dragged out as well. This was on the orchestra level. And the first group that we saw was in the orchestra too. So there were some who had, what I assume were the most expensive seats, or not, maybe, not $500,000, but some, I assume the way they price it is the way they price, Broadway stuff was orchestra, first, second, third, mezzanine.
Sure, yeah.
That just kind of stands to reason. But there's Diane Sayre there. DC. Oh, is Diane Sayre in the chat herself? Hey, Diane. Shout out to you. Congratulations and thank you very much for being there, Radio City. If you were there, Jose just texted me to make sure I got your shout out in. I apologize. I thought I loaded it in. I must not have loaded it in properly, but glad I could find it anyway in a pinch. Thank you, DC, for that. Diane Sayre said the donated ticket for entry was $1,000. Wow.
Holy shit.
Wow.
Really?
Wow. Well, I'm certainly glad I played the video now. I would hate to not play that if it cost that much. Thank you very much.
Seriously, that's an investment. What was Maddow? 50?
Yeah, Maddow was 50.
50, and you got a book. They stole my book, though.
Yeah, and you got a book, but they did. Fuck your book.
They stole it. Fuck your book.
Fuck your book.
Please clap.